Hello, everybody. How are we doing today? I hope we're all fine. We're all doing well. Today, we are going to study this very fun, very easy concept in your CLAT examination, which is very scoring as well. That is figure of speech. Figure of speech, right? The poetic devices that your author uses to beautify their language, right? To increase the impact of their words. For example, our very favorite, my childhood crush, Mr. Yo-Yo Honey Singh, what does he say? In his song, right here, he says that, Uncle, the amount of money your daughter spends throughout the month, that's the amount of money I use to fuel the diesel in my car. Now, any sensible human with normal functioning brain set will ask him, Bro, why is that? Are you an Uber driver? Are you an Uber driver? But is he literally intending to mean that? No, we don't take his words literally, because this is just a hyperbole, an exaggeration. Oh, see, this is the amount of money I spend, this is the extravagance I indulge in, right? So this kind of usage of language, which is not literal but more of poetic, indirect and beautified, that is called figure of speech. All right, every year we get one to two questions from here, right? Chalo, we will this is going to be a three lecture series. First, we'll understand and we'll learn the most frequently asked high frequency one. Then we'll go about some moderate frequency, and in the third lecture we'll learn the ones that they haven't asked yet, but they might appear in your future CLAT papers. Chalo, starting with the first one, that is metaphor. Now, this is an easy one. This is an easy one. We've all studied it during our school time. Metaphor is nothing but a direct comparison, right? A direct comparison. For example, when I scold, when in an offline setting, I scold somebody, if I scold a girl, her friends often come to me and say, Ma'am, please don't scold her. She's such a tender, delicate flower. Now, my question is, if she's indeed a flower, why is she here studying? It's just a metaphor. They are comparing her softness and tenderness to that of a flower. So it's a direct comparison. She is a flower. Now, they're not saying she's as tender as a flower. No, that is understood. They are calling her a flower. Or I can say, Shambhaji Maharaj was a lion in the battlefield. Now, did he actually grow a tail, right, or hair on his face? No, no, no. What I'm trying to say here is he was as brave as a lion, right? So this is a metaphor, direct comparison. After that, you have simile. What is simile? Here we are comparing two things, but we do not compare them directly. Rather, we use words as and like. We are drawing similarities, right? We are drawing the similarity. So you can remember similarity, simile. Okay. For example, you have beautiful hair like snakes, you know, falling on your face. So I'm comparing the wave, I'm comparing the wave of the hair with that of snake, right? I don't know if that looks like a snake, but I think we get the idea, right? I'm comparing the curls, the waves of a hair to that of a snake, the movement of a snake. This is what? This is simile. I'm not saying the hair is snake. No, I'm saying it's as beautiful as snake. All right, the hair fall on his on a face like lot of snakes coming together, something like that. I think we get the idea. After that, you have personification. What is personification? When you're giving human attributes, human emotions, right, or human activities to a non-human entity. For example, the clouds shed tears, right? The clouds shed tears. Now, crying is something that only humans do. The clouds don't do that. But I'm saying this, why? To show that it was raining, right? Just a sort of beautification. Now, you might also ask me, ma'am, but why is the author using it? Why can't he just say it was raining? Well, ये राज भी उसके साथ ही चला गया. We don't know. We genuinely don't know why the author said this when he could have clearly chosen an easier and practical alternative. But okay, here we are. All right, people. After that, you have metonymy. What is metonymy? Metonymy is when you show an institution with something that is closely associated with it. Right? I am representing an institution with an object that is closely associated with it. For example, when I have to say the US government, I can simply say the White House. Right? When I say the White House, it automatically means the US government or the state. Or when I say the Wall Street, right? It definitely it automatically reflects the financial capital, right? The investment banking sector, right? Charlie. After that, you have synecdoche. Now, synecdoche is also a kind of representation using an object, but here we are not using close association. No, no, no. Here we are using a part whole relationship. What is it? It's a part whole relationship. What does it mean, ma'am? What does it mean? I'm using a part of something to show the entire thing. For example, they're fighting for the throne. Now, are they fighting only for the throne? No, they're fighting for the position, right? They're fighting for kingship, right, beta? This is when you're using a part of something to represent the whole thing, right? This is called synecdoche. Synecdoche shows you a part whole relationship. If you have a doubt in here, write in the comments. I'll give you more examples. Okay. After that, you have irony. What is irony? See, irony is nothing but a gap, a clear gap in the expected outcome and the resulted outcome. Right? Right? When something very unexpected happens, I don't know if you still have, there used to be this chapter in your English textbook called The Dear Departed. Now, the irony was the person who actually died was not dear to anyone. And yet, the name of the chapter is Dear Departed. Or the first chapter of your English textbook is the last lesson. And it is the first chapter. So, it is the irony here. I can explain you better using an example. Okay, it's a joke. So, let's say there was this guy. There was this guy and there was this girl. They both go on a date. Okay, they both go on a date, and the girl says, "Oh, I love animals." Okay, the girl says she loves animals, and the guy says, "Oh, that's great. That's great. I work with them." Right? She says, "I love animals," and the guy says, "That's great. That's fantabulous. I work with animals." And then she says, "Oh, what do you do?" And the guy says, "I'm a butcher. I'm a butcher. I kill animal and I sell their flesh." Now you see the irony here. When she said, "Oh, I love animals, they're so cute," and they say, "Oh, I work with animals," what do you expect? You expect he must be a veterinary doctor and he must work at some, pet care facility or something like that. But turns out that he's a butcher. Now it is true, he does work with animals indeed. But look at the irony here. Right, people? Right? Follow. Irony is when something opposite of what's expected happens. Okay, now further we have three types of ironies. When I tell you these three types, you will understand better in greater depth, but we'll do it in the following lecture. Okay, as I said, it is going to be a three lecture series. Okay, follow. After that, you have hyperbole. What is hyperbole? As we suggested in the example, when you say I use so and so amount of fuel in my car, that doesn't mean I'm literally doing it. I'm just showing how extravagantly I spend or how rich I am. Or for example, whenever you're studying with your maths teacher or your father, right? Whenever you're doing maths with your father, you ask something once, he'll tell you. You ask something twice, he'll tell you. But if you dare and ask him the third time, he say, "Bache, I have explained you 100 times. Why don't you understand?" Now, is it possible practically for somebody to say something 100 times? No. This is just exaggeration. Right? Sorry, this is called hyperbole. After that, you have understatement or litoise. What is this? It is exact opposite of hyperbole. It is your brown dads, your Indian dads. You tell them, "Dad, I got 80% in class 10th." He wouldn't say it's good. What would he say? Not bad. Not bad, right? Whenever brown dads have to speak of their children, they use these figure of speech all the time. For example, instead of saying, she is very disciplined, they would say, oh, she's not in discipline. She's not in discipline. So, what is it? Understatement of the facts, meaning the same thing, just in an understated manner. After that, you have allusion. Allusion is when you give reference to something well known, for example, some pop culture, mythology, right, or popular literature. Right, whenever your author gives reference to that, that is called allusion. That is called allusion, Charlie. All right. Then you have symbolism. Symbolism is when you have one object representing a larger theme or a larger concept or a larger idea. Now you might ask you, ma'am, what is metaphor? That's the same thing, right? I'm showing an object to represent another thing, that is metaphor, right? Beta, symbolism, the only difference is that symbolism, we use an object to show a larger concept, a larger idea. But in metaphor, it's a one on one comparison. One object, one person or quality, something like that. It's one on one. Symbolism is more larger, it's more thematic, it's more conceptual in nature. For example, your chains show slavery. Yeah, your chains, they show slavery. Or you can say the white dove, it shows peace, right? It shows peace. Now, has the dove got something to do with peace? Has she done something for peace? No, it's just a symbol, right? It's just a symbol that we use. After that, you have imagery. What is imagery? Imagery is nothing when your author uses very strong description, visual description, to create an image in your mind. If you have ever read O Henry, right, or if you have read Premchand in Hindi, you know what I'm talking about. The way these authors write, you can actually see image being created, right? For example, I say, oh, yesterday I saw a girl, she was wearing a black dress, a red scarf, and she had wavy hair with white pearl earring. Right, she had a black dress, red scarf, and she was wearing a white pearl earrings. So when I say this, you can actually picture a woman like that in your head. So whenever I use these strong words, descriptions, this is called imagery. Then you have transfer epithet. What is transfer epithet? Transfer epithet is when you take an inanimate object, right, non-human object, and you give him quality of humans, but you are only writing it. The actual meaning still stays with the human, the quality is there with the human, I'm just writing it with the object. For example, I'll give you an example. I say, she pointed an angry finger at me. Okay, she pointed an angry finger at me. Now tell me one thing, is this person angry or is the finger angry? Who exactly is angry here? Who exactly is angry? Is the person angry or is the finger angry? You would say, of course, ma'am, the person is angry. But why am I saying angry finger? Just a misplaced adjective. Right? Right, everybody? Charlie. Yeah. Or I can say she has spent several sleepless nights preparing for this paper. Now, who exactly was sleepless? The knight or the lady? The lady was sleepless, right? She did not sleep. But am I saying she was sleepless? No, I'm saying she has spent sleepless nights, suggesting the nights were sleepless, which is not the case here, right? So it's transferred epithet. Now you there is a scope of confusion between transferred epithet and personification. Yes. The only difference here is, beta, in personification, when I give qualities, emotions, or attributes to a non-human entity, it belongs there, right? The entity, the object owns it, they belongs to it. But in transferred epithet, they originally belong to a person or a group of people, but I'm just placing it next to an object, right? Why, you may ask? Well, again, ये राज भी उसके साथ ही चला गया. I don't know why people do that. They do it just to, create an impact in their writing, to beautify it, and to confuse the students in CLAT, ALET, right? So, after that, you have oxymoron. What is oxymoron? Oxymoron is when you are using opposite meaning words together in a sentence. Ma'am, what does that mean? For example, I say, oh, that was a very serious joke. Ma'am, serious joke? If it is serious, how is it a joke? But it can be like it was a joke, but it touched upon a serious topic. Now, these words are opposite of each other, serious and joke, right? Yet together they can mean something. That is called oxymoron, right? Opposing meaning words written together. That is oxymoron. I'll give you a better example. For example, you enter your law school, right? If you clear CLAT, or maybe let's say you fail to clear CLAT and you enter your law school, and then during your second year, fourth semester, you say, oh, we want to do an internship, है ना? And you go to these internship cells and you say, I want a paid internship, है ना? You say, I want a paid internship. Chances are they look at you and say, Bacha, don't you know these two are oxymoron? This is an oxymoron. What do you mean by paid internship? It's an oxymoron in the legal field. It can either be an internship or it can be paid. Jokes apart, that's not going to happen if you get into a good college. But I think we got the idea. After that, we have paradox. What is paradox? Paradox is more like a circular situation, self contradictory idea, right? Self contradictory and inherent contradiction. Now, this can be easily confused with antithesis. है ना? We'll learn about that in the next lecture. Okay, as I said, it's going to be a 3 lecture series. So, antithesis we're going to learn in the next lecture. Here, let's talk about your paradox. Paradox are self contradictory yet true statements. Statements that are self contradictory and yet they make sense. Yet they make sense. For example, I say, uh, for example, let's take an easy one. For example, I say, my stress is causing me lots of hair fall, and I'm getting stressed because of hair fall. The moment I see my hair, I get stressed. But because of my stress, my stress is causing me hair fall. Ma'am, self contradictory, a circular situation, right? In paradox, there is always a discrepancy that needs to be find out. Otherwise, it looks like a circular situation, a self contradictory situation, right? Or I can say, let's say there is a physiotherapy center. Okay, there is a physiotherapy center for people who are suffering with knee pain, but the center itself is located at the third floor. Ma'am, what is this? Because how are they gonna, if they have if they have knee pain, how are they gonna climb the stairs? And if they don't climb the stair, how are they gonna reach the hospital or the center, whatever? Again, it's a self contradictory statement that yet makes sense. So you have to find out the loophole in order for it to make complete sense. Right? So the discrepancy here could be they have a lift, maybe. They have a lift, right? Or they have wheelchair facility, anything like that. Charlie. After that, you have pun. Pun is when you use similar sounding or same spelling words to create confusion and humor, right? For example, I say, my mama says, "Bacha, go. You have your relatives coming up. Go to the market and get me some paneer. Let's say, get me some paneer. I'm going to make shahi paneer today." I say, "No, mama, I can't go. My bicycle is too tired." Okay, my bicycle is too tired. Now, too tired can mean two things. It is too tired, right? It has two tires. It's too tired. Or I can say it is too tired, right? It's too exhausted. It's too tired, right? So it can mean any of the two. What am I doing here? It's a word play. I'm using similar sounding words to create a sort of confusion and humor. It does not necessarily have to give you humor, but it always uses the similar sounding words to create a confusion. Like your Shakespeare, he says he was a grave man. Now grave man can mean either he was very serious, or it can mean he works at a graveyard. Now what does it mean? I don't know. It can mean either of the two, right? So again, using same spelling or similar sounding words to create confusion, that is called pun. Charlie, I hope we have understood till here. These are the most commonly asked high frequency ones. There are more to this. There are some moderate frequency, and there are some that they have not explored much, so we'll do that as well. But for this lecture, this is all we're going to do. Now we'll move to the questions. Sorry, we'll try one question here, and these two you will do in your homework, and you will tell me the answer in the chat box, okay, in the comments. So I'll get a side. If you're watching the recording, you can pause it for a while, right? You can pause it for a while, and then we will discuss the answer. Done reading, people? Done reading? Charlie. Now always remember, there's a slight difference, a tad bit of difference between questions in your CLAT ALET examination and in examination like CUET, MHCT, or those Sarkari papers. What's the difference, beta? The difference is in your MHCT, CUET type of paper, you get direct question. They may give you a phrase, right? They may give you a sentence, or they might give you just the device and then ask you which one of the following is here. But in CLAT, paper like CLAT or LA, that are predominantly RC based, here you don't just look at one sentence or phrase. You look at the phrase, you also, at the back of the head, you should have the main idea as well, right? And you uh, contrast it with that. Only then will you be able to find the right answer. So, this is a passage where the author talks about the deteriorating quality of air in the city, and he talks about pollution, right? And he uses certain poetic devices to explain that. Chalo, we'll move to the question. Let's look here. The phrase, the exhausted array, yes. The expression, the exhausted streetlight still clung to the mist, is best classified as what? Personification, transfer epithet, metonymy, or synecdoche. Right now, some of you would say, ma'am, personification, that there's a chance that you can have a confusion between A and B. Personification and transfer epithet. Dekho, this in this expression, beta, if I go back to the passage, hmm, where is this expression written? Here. Uh, yes, the exhausted streetlights. Yes, the first line. Yes, so the town woke reluctantly under a blue sky. The exhausted streetlights still clung to the mist, refusing to surrender the roads to morning. Now here we are, when I say the streetlights still clung to the mist, I'm not representing emotions of the people living in the town. No, I am giving human attributes to the streetlight itself, right? To the streetlight itself. So this is not transferred epithet, right? So if you're confused between personification and transferred epithet, this is not transferred epithet. Why? Because if I'm choosing transferred epithet, I need to tell myself the adjective is placed next to this object, but where does it actually belong? Does it actually belong to some person? No, that's not the case here. So transfer epithet clearly out of question. Then metonymy, is it reflecting, or is it representing some associated institution? No. Synecdoche, does the streetlight represent something larger? No, There is no part whole relationship either. So the correct answer here is A, personification. Personification. I'm giving human attributes, human emotions, qualities, or actions to a non human entity. Right, everybody? Right, Charlie? This is it for the day, everybody. This is it for the day. Now we'll meet in some other lecture. Please, you can screenshot these questions and tell me the answer. I'll, yeah, tell me the answers in the chat, in the comment section, and I'll definitely explain that to you. All right, we'll meet in the next session. As I said, we will then practice the moderate frequency and the least frequently asked figure of speeches as well. All right, till then, keep studying. See you all. Bye bye.